We are now recording. Thanks everyone for joining us here at a Wicked Smart Chat with David Kutcher of Confluent Forms. We're going to be talking today about why right timing is more important than being real time in your marketing, and some research that David's done on that, some things that he wrote about. With that we'll be talking with him in a moment. Just a few things that you can do for us here to really help us out. If you're watching live today, tell a little bird over there. If you're on desktop, on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, there is a little thing that says tell a little bird. If you click that, it's going to give you a tweet. You can pop that out to your Twitter following and get some more folks in here watching us. The other thing that you can do, if you're on the iOS app, it's going to be down the bottom. You're just going to see a little blue Twitter logo. You tap that once and it will automatically send out that tweet for us. Thanks for doing that. We appreciate it. The other thing you want to do is if you like what David's saying, he's helping you out here. I can promise you he will. Go up on his little video there, and right above him where his name is, you'll see a little kind of silhouette icon there. If you click that, you'll follow David here on Blab. And if you click on his name, you can go to his profile and follow him on Twitter as well. I recommend both. Real smart guy. All right, David, let us flow into this here. Thank you. First of all, David has put in the chat the link to his post that we're going to be discussing today. It's confluentforums.com/moments. All right, David, why don't you, first of all, tell us quickly a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, David Kutcher, I'm the co-owner of confluentforums.com, Confluent Forums. We're a web design, web development, and online strategy firm in Western Massachusetts, but we have clients kind of all over the United States. We work with a lot of wide-ranging clientele, everything from local restaurants to, half of Broadway, universities, everything. And a lot of very diverse and very interesting projects. We've been in business since 2002, so still at it after all these years.
Yeah, it looks like you're keeping the wolves away there. I see walls around you, a roof over your head, sun shining outside, so that's a good sign. All right, David, let's plunge right in. What do we mean by, and this is my title, so forgive me for it, but I think I think you agreed elsewhere that it sort of sums up what you're talking about in your post. But what do we mean by real time versus right time marketing?
So for a long time, I think we've been building websites, and a lot of people have been building websites for how you want to present yourself to the world. That it's very one-dimensional. I have a website, I'm going to tell everyone about me. But I think a lot of people have wisened up to the fact that you really need to make it about the user and what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do, and taking it a step further, what they're trying to do at the moment that they have that need. And it's your responsibility as a good website and a website with strategy behind it to really try to connect to them at the moment that they have a need, at the moment that they are, looking for a solution, that you say, I have the solution to your problem. Here's the solution. And being able to make that connection, and whether that's real time in Twitter, or whether it's when they pick up their phone, their smartphone, and they run a Google query, whatever, having the ability to present yourself as having the solution to the problem that they're having at that immediate need.
Cool. So now you said in your post that you started it out by saying it begins with a spark and intent. Explain to us what you mean by each of those, a spark and intent.
So it was actually I'd been thinking about it for a while, and then I came across a great article by Think with Google. And if you're not subscribing to Think with Google, you really should. I mean, that goes for everyone. Just Think with Google is a spectacular resource. And they've been doing a great job of really framing thoughts, and thoughts that I've had and thoughts I know other people have had. And the spark of intent is, when someone has a specific problem, and what do? They immediately go, I have an idea. I have a thing I need to do. What is that from that spark of something they need to get done? What do they do next? What's their next step? And increasingly, because, we can't be 2 feet away from our phones, what do? We run a Google search. We go right from having a thought up. Like, it could be anything like watching TV. Who's that actor? And you look up who that actor is. And then you want to find a movie that actor's in. To my car didn't start today. To I just caught a fish and I have no idea if it's edible. You have this thing and you immediately start a query. You immediately start trying to get immediate answers and resolution to your challenge. And that's that spark of intent.
So and thanks, Keith put the link to Think with Google in the chat there, thinkwithgoogle.com. Great recommendation. Lots of great thinking and articles there. David, so, okay, that's great. We need to know the user intent, and that's going to connect us with that user at the moment. Like you said, this is where the right time comes in, the moment that they're looking for what you have to offer. But how do you discern that intent? How do you learn that and find out what those intentions are that might work for your business?
So this is something we talk about with all of our clients. We've been doing it forever, is trying to do audience segmentation, to learn about who your audience is, what their needs are, what their challenges are. If you're an auto mechanic, what are the things that, your clients always come in asking for? When do I need to get my brakes fixed? When do I need to get a tire rotation? Being able to foresee the challenges that your clientele or customers are going to have and anticipating it. There's a lot of anticipation in it because who your audience is. You've been working with them for so long. Start defining them, and then going from there, building the content out and your way of speaking to them based on what you know of them. Are they highly technical? Are they 80-year-olds that have never used a computer before? Are they kids? What are the things that define your different audiences, and how do you speak and write to them so that you are able to connect on that path?
So Doug, or David, I'm sorry, I said Doug because my coworker, Doug Haslam, just tried to pop in on the seat there for a moment. So he put Doug in my head. David, where does social media come into that? Because many business owners just think of social media as a broadcast mechanism. This is where I send out my specials and my deals or my content, my next blog post. But where does social media come into discerning that intent of your audience?
So I think you're entirely right. I think everyone looks at social media as an amplification as opposed to a way for you to be listening. So everyone's on social media talking, not enough people are actually listening. And I think actually if you spend more time listening, you can find the people that have those challenges and you can connect with them by giving them an answer. And rather than continually be force feeding them something, you can say, you know what? I can point you to the solution for the thing you're having. Here you go. Like, oh, you're having a problem getting your car to start. Here's a great YouTube video. It's on our webpage, but there's a great YouTube video. And then going right from there to, oh, and here's how you can get your tune-up for your car and all these other things. And this is what I talk about in the article is, you want to answer and solve the challenge that they're having first and then sell them. It goes to building that relationship of trust and saying, I provided you with good content. You should trust me because I helped you out. And it's not just about selling them all the time. It's just about listening and giving them answers to the challenges that they face.
Okay, now in the article, you talk about micro moments and meta moments. Those are interesting terms, but what do they mean?
So that was actually borrowed from Think with Google because they defined it so perfectly. The micro moments are the ones where the intent and a person picks up their cell phone and starts querying. You're creating a micro moment, a point in time where they have a challenge and you have the solution for them and you're going to help them fix it. The meta moment is when you actually make them pause from what they're doing and give them something to think about beyond their current challenge. And it was something that I saw, I think, A List Apart, which is another great newsletter. Someone just happened to be writing an article and they defined it as meta moments. And I thought, that's a great concept. How do you put a speed bump in their path? Not in the sense of getting them to waylaying them from the goal conversion, but making them stop and think. And it's when you get someone to stop and think that you've actually entered their brain. You're not just yet another website with yet another article. They remember you because you made them stop and think. It's that pause. It's that moment of understanding or moment of contemplation where they go, I never really thought about that. I should give that a try. And that's when you have that meta moment where it expands the conversation beyond the current situation.
Yeah, I've often been amazed when someone will walk up to me at a conference or just meet me somewhere or here on a blab, and they'll mention some piece of content that I wrote, 6-8 months ago. I've even forgotten about it. And they won't just mention it. They won't just say like, hey, I really like that article about, but they will quote me something from it, or they'll bring out something deep from within the article. And that's when I know that I've reached that, that meta moment that you're talking about in my content, that's stuck with them in a very concrete way.
And the sparks is something that I've been talking about with a whole bunch of people for at least a year or 2 years of, in social media, I look to people to spark me, to give me those meta moments, to have conversations that make me pause and reflect, and oftentimes create new blog articles or go a totally different direction. I've looked to you and you've given me sparks. I look to the people I surround myself with to give me those sparks of intent, those sparks of understanding to say, oh, I never thought of it that way. What if I explore that avenue? What will come of it? And sometimes it takes me totally different directions, or allows me to further refine my thinking. And that's something that I think once you're in that head, like now you've got a follower who tunes into you all the time because you made me think, because you made me have that meta moment. So, now I'm not just a customer, but I'm a brand advocate for you. And that's the same thing you want to create with your website and your meta moments. You want to create that brand ambassador because you've just taken them to that next level of understanding, that next level of connection with you, that next level of trust, and it expands that conversation again.
And taking it back just a half step for a moment, something you mentioned that intrigued me, because you're taking it the next level from, because a lot of people who blog or create content are concerned about, where am I going to get my next idea? Where am I going to get ideas for blog posts or videos of the content I need to produce? They worry about that a lot. What you're saying here is not only a way of generating new ideas, but better ideas, because those ideas are already proven. They're targeted at what your audience is responding to, what they really need that you and your business can fulfill. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's about knowing your audience and listening to your audience, and working from that audience. And how do you expand that conversation with that audience? I oftentimes go back to the know thyself mantra, and it's knowing what your business or you as a blogger are about, or, where your content's coming from, and who you're trying to be and what you're trying to accomplish. But then also speaking to your audience, what are you trying to accomplish with your audience? What are they trying to accomplish? How do you reach that synergy between the two? And oftentimes your audience will give you the content. You just have to be listening for that content. They're telling you their challenges. You just need to be listening and writing towards those challenges, because they're already looking to you as the guiding light for help.
That's when the magic happens. And speaking of magic happening, we brought in here Eric Enga, the founder and CEO of Stone Temple, my boss, my friend, my mentor.
And looking a little frazzled because I came straight off a plane and I'm in a limo getting a ride back to the office right now. But since I had to duck out the last time I jumped on one of these, the moment that David Kutcher arrived, I had to make sure I got in on this one.
Yeah, that did
literally, hi, David. But, not this time. I'm here for at least a few minutes.
That did look a little suspicious on that blab, like, oh, David's here, I got to leave. Yeah.
He's avoiding me.
Yeah. Of course, when you left, Eric, Michael Stelzner popped in. So, it was karma got back at you.
Well, actually, it's because he and I are the same guy.
Oh, okay. That explains so much.
I just thought I'd fill that in for you, so in case you missed that detail.
All right. Well, this is, first of all, folks, just want to assure people that people freak out when they think somebody's driving and blabbing. Eric is not driving. The moment, show us your hands, Eric. All right. Give Eric some.
I have no hands. Don't worry about
it. All right. Great. And you're coming in very well and you sound great. So that's good. We've been talking with David Kutcher here about his article about using meta moments and micro moments within your content, discerning the spark that's there for your readers, and turning that into conversions, which is what I want to move on into next. But just while we're taking a quick break here, I want to remind folks to help us out here by hitting that Tell a Little Bird button over there. Yep. See, we're getting really good at this mirror image stuff. Let your audience know that you're watching and bring them on in here. As well, if you're on the iPhone app, just tap the little Twitter icon down at the bottom, and you can do that for us. We really, really appreciate that. And be sure to follow not only us in here, you can do that just by clicking on our names at the top and follow us here on Blab, But other people you see in the chat, if you're on the chat here, people who are interesting you, who are adding great stuff, go over and just click on their name in the chat, and you can follow them as well. All right, enough commercial announcements.
Before it gets lost, Nina Trankova asked a good question. Isn't this meta moment requiring conversation in the right time and in real time too? And I think that's important. I mean, so one of the things that football season is starting soon. With football season, you look at these players that are doing incredibly timed plays, and sometimes they're so amazing they make it look spontaneous. Like, oh, I just happen to be wide open. I happen to be seeing, the guy making the dash across the field. And that's the thing, is that it comes from planning and understanding where everyone's going to be at what time and how they're going to be getting to that point. And then it's really about connecting with them at the point that they're looking. And sometimes that's in social media, and sometimes it's a Google search, and sometimes it can be anything. And it's really that forethought and strategy of just getting your stuff to be there where they have to be looking at the right time is the challenge. But it comes from a lot of work and a lot of practice, and a lot of looking at your content and strategizing for how do I get it to be at the right place at the right time. But also, like we were saying earlier, it comes from listening. If you're doing social listening and you have your queries set up, you'll be finding those people looking for those challenges. And that's the thing, is that, it's really about working to put yourself in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's great insight, David. You really do have to, you have to be engaging in a way, and like you said, putting yourself in the right position. So part of it is preparation, and part of it is just, what are the tools you put in place to listen so you can pick up that right time? Because nobody can be always on, right? You're always going to have those times where you have to do something else other than live in social media. I know it's a shocking concept, but especially for Mark. Yeah. He almost passed out when I said that. So So, having that social listening environment set up for yourself, however you do it, is a big deal.
And this is not a tools-oriented show, but there are tools that will definitely help you with that. Things like mention. There's a lot of other things that we could mention, but that will help you to do that a little bit more effectively in time that you have to be able to. David, I want to pretty soon open this up to questions and bring in maybe some people from the audience into the chat here to talk with you. But before we do, let's move on to the last part of your post, where you talked about how this concept of right timing even comes in to when you make your call for action and how you make it on your content. So talk about that a little bit.
So conversion rate optimization is such a tricky subject. There's lots of reports out there and lots of experts that'll tell you, you got to push your 8 to 15 second bounce rate. You got to make them convert right away, or you're never going to get the conversion. I kind of take the opposite approach, where I want to build trust with my readers. And I encourage a lot of my clients to build trust first and say, provide them with value first and then make your sell. I feel like it creates a more lasting relationship, as opposed to right away you get a pop-up to join and subscribe and, all these 20 other things. And I can't stand it when that happens. And nothing turns me off from a brand than getting bombarded before I've even gotten a paragraph down the page. So I encourage people to let the reader and build the experience out. Really engage the person. Just like if someone had come into you, let's say you actually had a physical store or a restaurant, or a store. If they walked into your store and right away you jumped on them before you even let them look around and take in the store and look at products, you would run screaming out the door. Like you would literally turn around and walk out. So I instead like it when I'm allowed to come in. I'm allowed to look around. I'm allowed to pick up things and look at things in the store. And then the salesperson comes over and says, can I help you? How can I help you? What are the things I can do to help you? Oh, you're looking at this vase? Have you looked at this lighting fixture that goes with it? Before you start upselling them, let them get some value. Let them experience it first, which is kind of the opposite of most conversion rate optimization people. But I feel it creates that lasting value a bit more.
Great. Eric, before we open up, did you have anything you wanted to ask David or add to that?
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting because Google obviously agrees with you, David, because they have started to take away the mobile friendly tag from people who use interstitials on their mobile sites to push their app as kind of a little penalty for that. But the interesting thing is, I mean, you mentioned the conversion rate optimization side of things, and there's plenty of data out there that suggests that it works to put that, interstitial kind of experience up there, or those commercial messages. And it's taking that extra step, I think, of insight that we all have to do. Is if what we really want is a lasting relationship with our customer,
right?
Then maybe I'll take a fewer conversions, and I'll look at the lifetime value of the people that I'm getting on those conversions, because it wasn't like a quick hit kind of thing that I shoved down their throat.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the quality of the person that you get. You might get more of them by having it up there, but they might be the people that have very few dollars to spend, and sure, they're willing to give you a throwaway email address, which still would count as a conversion. So it's misleading you with numbers. But the person that might be the high value chief marketing officer or chief technology officer, CEO that's reading your article, that you just really pissed off by giving them 3 pop-up windows they have to click through, you just chased them away because you were shoving it at them. So it's that balancing act of who are you actually trying to attract, and what's the experience that you're trying to get them with, as opposed to just yanking it out of their throat the moment they show up on your website. Sorry, that was a fishing analogy. I'm sorry, I threw.
Well, that's your whole for your post, so that's good. I'm bringing in Mark Levy here, despite the fact that he spells Mark wrong. I'm going to bring him into the chat anyway. And Mark had an interesting little challenge in the chat, so go ahead and bring that in, Mark.
No, I was, I pretty much agree with everything David was saying. I've just found there's so many times where I've felt a certain way, and A/B testing, split testing has just completely proven me wrong. However much I dislike something, or however much I liked a website to work in a certain way. I think I was in a blab the other day, Mark, where where we were talking about like exit pop-ups, right? Mm-hmm. I've never met anyone that likes an exit pop-up, or has said they like an exit pop-up, but the facts seem to tell me that everybody lies.
Yeah, and the metrics, I actually think that the metrics lie. I think that, no, I'm saying this in a way that,
no, I hear you. I think you were in that blab, right? And you were saying that like you might get a lot of signups with an exit pop-up, but you don't necessarily know the feeling of all the people that left that didn't sign up through the exit pop-up.
Yeah, or the value of the people that stood around to give that to you versus the value of the people that left. Agreed. You're only seeing one statistic. You're not seeing the lifespan value, which is I think what Eric was saying earlier. You're not seeing the value of the connection. You're just seeing the conversion rate, percentage point.
Yeah.
And there's actually a great article on Search Engine Land today. The click is a lie, lessons from the interruption curve. And they're talking about, the metrics do lie if you just look at them in aggregate without actually jumping into what they actually mean or the value.
In that same blab you're talking about, Mark, I made the
right. I mean, just that old saying, lies.
Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry. There's that old saying, lies, damned lies, and statistics. And it really does apply. And I'm going to share kind of a different example just for sake of illustrating this. Is probably 2 years ago now, we published on the Stone Temple blog a guest post, which we generally don't accept, but this was such a good article that I took it from a guy who basically showed that bounce rate increases together with conversion rate on highly commercial terms. So, i.e., if you have a term like buy Adidas sneakers and someone comes to your page and it's an Adidas sneakers page where you can sell stuff, yes, your sales will go up. And your bounce rate is going up at the same time. So this is a case where there's a negative statistic, okay, which is the liar, right? And in fact, your conversions are going up and more people are happy. It's kind of a reflection of a different set of concerns, which is I'm looking for immediate conversion as the user, and I made my decision like that, and I was off your page, right? So stats can lie.
Yep.
Somebody in the comments commented about remarketing and how remarketing works. Well, that's one of those blanket statements like, yes, remarketing works, but done wrongly or done not well, you can be having unforeseen negative repercussions on your brand that you're not looking at. For example, I see a lot of people complaining about the fact, they go to a site, they bought something, and then for the next 2 weeks on Facebook, they're getting ads for the item that they bought, remarketing ads. Whereas I know in Facebook, I believe someone's told me that there's a way to, there's a setting where you can turn that off. You can link that into your shopping cart in a way that if they bought the item, they won't get targeted for that ad. Most don't bother with that. And now you've just annoyed me after I was a customer.
I think that's just a case of setting up the right kind of buckets to sort of say this person's purchased, show them something else or don't show them anything.
But the dangerous thing there with that and with things like pop-ups is you can't measure the negative, right? We know, I put this pop-up on there and I got all these signups for my email newsletter, and I don't know that twice as many people as that maybe got pissed off at my brand and will never come again.
But that's why I think the most important thing, it connects to what Eric was saying. I know he's left, but it's all about what the goal is, right? Like at the end of the day, you have some people where their ultimate goal is to build their email list, right? So all those people that get pissed off that we're never going to sign up for the email list, they kind of don't care in that scenario, right? But if you're trying to build a brand, if you're trying to build a product or service that has a long lifespan, you're probably going to care about those metrics. So it comes down to the goal. And Eric was talking about the bounce rate and the sales. Way too many people get hung up on bounce rate when often it's the complete opposite to what their goal is, kind of thing, right? If the checkout page has a high bounce rate, it's probably good.
I have a whole post coming on just bounce rate alone because I think it's the most misleading metric that exists. And everyone looks at bounce rate and judges by bounce rate and gets frustrated by bounce rate. And there's so many ways that one metric misleads everyone. And one of my things recently I've been working with a client and segmenting out the bounce rate, and just non-bounce sessions. And let's just look at non-bounce sessions in our analytics. And it presents a whole different picture of your analytics. And you might go, wow, people are spending 20 minutes on my website in a session, but because of bounce rate, you think you're failing. Right. And you might be like, oh, well, those are just some people that were window shopping. They weren't even going to come into your store if you keep on that, that analogy. Who cares about them? Let's not worry about them. Let's just worry about the people that actually came in, and let's focus on them and building value for them. And let's see the conversion rate for them. Right. And that it changes the whole dynamic of how you start looking at things.
Hey, folks, I wanted to keep this show to 30 minutes. We're coming up on that. If someone wants to pop in and ask a question, and what we'll do here, do that now. What we'll do here is in another couple minutes, we'll probably shut down the recording side of it. David, if you want to stick around for a few more minutes and chat with people, even off the recording, that'll be awesome. Thank you for doing that. But let's bring that to a close. And I think this is a good closing point. I think we covered your article well. Let's pop. I think I've still got that in my cut and paste. I do. Okay. There's in the chat. There's a link to David's article. Do check that out for a lot more details on it. Follow him. Follow Mark. You've heard how smart Mark is there. Make sure you follow him. Check that on Twitter. And guys, thank you for a very great conversation. Thank you for something I think was truly valuable to our listeners today. I really, really appreciate your being here.
Thank you. Thank you.